Morning, back at it, Lake Winnipesaukee. I am out here scouting, and I'm going to take everybody along with me so I can show you exactly how I'm going to go about finding new deep water smallmouth spots on the big lake, Lake Winnipesaukee. So I'm feeling really good about it. This is honestly one of the things I'm really good at. I've put in my time to understand them, and I've usually been pretty successful, so I'm feeling pretty good about today. So what I'm going to do, to keep this very simple, is I know roughly the depth where I want to be. And I know that, for the most part, you really can't go wrong finding good structure in that depth range that you're looking around. In this case, when you're talking about Winnipesaukee, you're talking about either grass or rocks. And not just any rock or rocks in general, I mean literally any type of rock. Ideally, I like to find some really big boulders in the middle of isolated boulder fields where you get like that smaller riprap, almost like fist size to like, you know, head size or melon size rock with little patches of sand in the middle. And then you've got a couple of giant boulders all around that. You know, that's the spot the smallies really like to be. In the fall, maybe not so much. In the spring, yes, absolutely. But then we're looking for stuff like what you can see here that we already went by. You know, like I'm working this steep bank, and you can tell how steep it is because of the density of the different depth lines. That indicates a lot of depth change in a very short amount of time. So that's where I want to focus, because with a cold front, it's going to be tough to tell where these fish exactly want to be at their depth. Steep banks are always so good when the water gets cold, because then the fish have the absolute least amount of travel that they need to do to go from where they're happiest based on what the weather conditions are doing and what the water temperature is doing. You find yourself a nice steep, like 60-degree bank, right? And it goes up to, maybe it flattens out the top and it's like 10 feet. So as the day gets warmer, they can move up shallow, or if it's really cold, all they gotta do is swim just down the bank a little bit, and they can swim down to, say it's like 40 feet deep down the bottom. Especially this time of year, if you can find something where you're finding that transition going from like say 10 down to 40, that covers the entire range of where they're most likely to be when that water temp is in the low to mid 60s. Doesn't mean they can't be deeper, and doesn't mean they can't be shallower. But that is a really good starting point because it's your highest probability. So that is why I specifically like to focus on steep banks. From there, what I'm looking for isn't just rocks and stuff, but maybe something that differentiates it from other things, you know? A rock here and there, not gonna cut it. Now you can start to see this. Off the right side of the boat, that's some good stuff. And you can see out here off the map, that's out in deeper water. That's closer to 25 feet, kind of where that begins. So because I had the 360, this makes my job a little easier. I can just go ahead and put like a generic mark so I know like, okay, hey, if you pull up right on top of that, I can drop the 360 down and I can then see the whole area in greater detail. I don't need to completely choke up my graph with 1,000 marks to indicate every single mark, or at least, you know, the outer edges of a boulder pile. Now I can know, okay, if that's in the middle, I can set my range to like say 100 feet, and I can drop the trolling motor, get off the outboard 150 feet back and ease my way up to it and let the 360 tell me exactly how close I am and break it down from there. So I'm currently sitting in 21 feet. Again, we're left side, you kind of can't see it, but there's an island here, or at least a point of the mainland. And then off to my right is a much deeper water cut where it gets down to like 45 feet. And what I'm seeing here is exactly what I was looking for. Lots of rocks, but like big boulder piles. And the added benefit to this is it goes the whole distance. Based on what I'm seeing 100 feet out on the side imaging, that's how far these rocks go. And it goes beyond the 100 feet to my left, back up to that point. So I've got the exact kind of structure I want, that density, that larger area of the structure that I want near the deepest water that this area of the lake has to offer, but also adjacent to really shallow stuff. So depending on what the weather condition is going to do, that spot could be money, because it affords the smallmouth the whole range of where they could possibly want to be in one really small area, and plus tons of structure for not only the bait fish to hide in, but also the smallmouth to hide in and ambush from. And not just smallmouth, we're in an area that is one of the best areas for largemouth in all of Lake Winnipesaukee. So there's a good chance there could be largemouth up there too. They'll probably still eat a drop shot, but they might want a slightly different approach, maybe just a Texas rig lizard. not a lizard, or yeah, even a lizard, Texas ray worm, jig, spider jig. You know, it could be any one of 1,000 things. Everything you see here, you know, you can tell how I've got this higher return density, it's a little shallower. It's all the small bumps and stuff, and over here you got the much bigger rocks, the bigger boulders, big shadows behind them, so you know they're really tall. That's the juice for me. That is that riprap stuff over a large area with some slightly bigger boulders scattered about it, and I've got bigger boulders out far deeper water, bigger boulders up shallower. That is, in a nutshell, I've probably said this 10 times, what I look for when I come up here and I'm looking for smallmouth. Now, are they gonna be on there? Are they gonna bite? Damn it if I know. This is step one when breaking down new water. If you are fortunate enough that you have a boat with side imaging, this is what you want to do. Take your time to go around, and this quickly breaks down water. If you're even more fortunate enough to have a 360, then it makes that job a lot easier because you can identify one area that looks really good, nose up to it, drop 360, and then get the whole lay of the land in one shot and determine yay or nay. Otherwise, if you at least have a decent 2D sonar, you can do so much with just that. It just takes a little longer. So if you're willing to have the patience, I did it for years. I did it for the first 12 years of fishing until I got side imaging 2 years ago. I relied just on 2D and these, a good pair of polarized sunglasses. Going out to places on beautifully clear, calm, sunny skies and just physically looking at things. That's the quickest, easiest way you can break down water. It gets a lot easier and a lot quicker when you have more technology, again, side imaging or 360, but a good map and at least good 2D sonar, and a map can come in the way of just buying the Navionics web app or putting the Navionics app on your phone and paying for the subscription to buy the map, and you have it on your phone. And it will actually show your position on the map on your phone, where you are in relation, on the lake. It will show you your heading and bearing, where you're going as you're driving around. All this is great, it makes life easier, but you don't need it. I'm fortunate I have it. Look at this. As I'm talking to you, that is phenomenal. It's out deeper where I kind of want to be. There's another big one out here, but it's close to all this stuff. That really good, riprap, smaller rocks, kind of a little gap in the middle, some more chunk, nice little sand flat in between, and then you got even more boulders over here, and that's a really nice point. I'm out in 26 feet. You can see over here we're adjacent to that deep water. There's so much potential. You can spend half your day going out and identifying all these spots and seeing what has potential, but then all the rest of it's gonna come from actually fishing it. Using your 2D sonar, dropping down, trying to catch fish. Time on the water is 50-50. Half of it's doing your homework and looking at maps and trying to identify what looks good. Then that's like a third of it. The other third is actually getting behind the wheel. And whether you're using side imaging or just 2D sonar, and driving over these things and okay, yep, I can see we're over a bunch of big rocks and little rocks, or the side imaging, I can see it much more clearly, and then from there, it's just getting up there, dropping 2D sonar. Am I even marking fish? Am I marking a ton of bait fish? Am I marking anything? Oh wow, maybe there's grass down there that offers a little bit more variety in that structure down there. And then from there, just trying to catch fish. That's the 30,000 to 3,000 foot overview of finding bass. Specifically smallmouth, it gets a little bit more simple, at least in my eye, when it comes to largemouth, but for smallmouth, it is as simple as that. Where you do all that searching is dictated by the time of the year. It gets a little bit more complicated when you're talking the middle of the summer, when those fish are more suspended, and all this cover doesn't really mean squat. You can still find fish in this cover, but for the most part, a lot of those quality fish that you really want to be catching, they're going to be out deeper or suspended, just suspended out in deep water. It's kind of hard to find. Yeah, you might find a juicy rock pile in 40 or 50 feet, but they're probably not going to be on it. They're going to be over 60 feet, 15 to 20 feet down below the surface of the water, chasing roaming schools of bait. And unless you're lucky enough to drop troll motor and have them go right underneath you, or if you have live scope, it's going to be very difficult to find those fish. That's a small window out of the entire season where you can't do this to find fish. Finding them like that in that smaller window, that takes a lot more skill, and that's like a more advanced point. At this point, I'm talking more of that beginner to intermediate and even slightly beginning aspect of advanced skill for how you can quickly break down water and find smallmouth in deeper bodies of water like this. Keep it simple. Find rocks, find bait, and go from there. From there, as you find more fish, develop the pattern, and then you can more easily and more quickly and more reliably find fish based on those seasonal patterns. And that just takes time and experience. But to get you started, this is what you got to do. And I hope that all came out in a sensible manner that was easy enough to understand that you can then take that, dissect it, and bring it on the water and hopefully find success on your own.